How's the royal family? I pray that everyone is doing well. Well, my royal family, this case has arrived. Now, one thing that I do, my royal family, when I make videos the way I like to see them. And I also have a curious nature, so I always like to look further into cases that we'll hear in the media, and then it seems like it fade off. So I'm constantly updating just for thyself. And y'all remember this case where it says here, black FedEx driver chased and shot at by white father and son in Mississippi. And that was back in 2022. Well, the trial has begun, and I'm going to cover it every day to the bitter end. So y'all know what y'all need to go do. Go get your shit and lean all up in it. So my royal family, I have 2 videos to play, and I have an article to read. The case technically had started Monday, sort of like, picking out the jury and all those things. And so it just wasn't time to present anything. And don't worry about it. You're not going to miss a thing. I'm going to stay on top of it. So my royal family, first, what I'm going to do, I'm going to play this first video. And then after I play this video, then I'm going to read a article. So this is going to be a refresher so people can be up to speed on what's going on. This video is a little over 10 minutes.
Out of Mississippi, 2 men, a father and son, have been charged with attempted murder after police say they opened fire on a FedEx driver. Thankfully, he wasn't shot. Core TV anchor Ted Rowlands has more for us tonight.
They shot several times with that van trying to kill Mr. Gibson, and he had done nothing wrong. He was simply black while working.
Demontario Gibson was working as a FedEx driver in Brookhaven, Mississippi in January of 2022. He had just dropped off a package on Junior Trail and resumed his route when he says he was being followed closely by a man honking his horn. Then things took a frightening turn.
I drive down about 2 or 3 houses. There's another guy standing in the middle of the road pointing a gun in my vehicle. And he's mouthing the word stop, and he's doing like this. He's like, stop, stop. So I just started shaking my head like, no, I'm not gonna stop. And I duck behind the steering wheel and I swerve around him as well. As I swerve around him, he starts firing shots at the back of my vehicle. And I'm hearing all the shots here, so I'm just ducking.
Gibson was wearing a FedEx uniform, but his van was unmarked and rented by FedEx from Hertz.
I'm like, they shooting at me. And she like, they shooting at you? I'm like, yes, they shooting at me.
Police identified the men as Gregory and Brandon Case, father and son. Both have been charged with attempted murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and shooting into a motor vehicle. They have pled not guilty and maintained their innocence.
On the heels of the death of Ahmaud Arbery, we could have had the same situation here.
Gibson's attorney is recalling the case of Ahmaud Arbery. The 25-year-old was jogging in a South Georgia neighborhood when he was chased by 3 white men and shot to death in February of 2020.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis McMichael, guilty.
Father and son Gregory and Travis McMichael and Ronnie Bryan were all convicted of murder in both state and federal courts. Gibson and his attorneys are urging federal authorities to prosecute this incident as a hate crime.
We've also informed the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, and they have flagged the case.
I can definitely see the similarities, and that's why I feel it's my responsibility to speak up, because Ahmaud Arbery didn't survive to speak up for himself, so I want to take that upon myself to do that for me and him as well.
Ted Rowlands reporting that for us again. This one is starting up with jury selection tomorrow. Opening statements tentatively set for Wednesday, provided they get the jury. I want to bring back in our think tank, Al White III, Darnell Crossland, and Jennifer Brandt, all on the show tonight. Boy, oh boy, what he said there in that last bit in Ted's piece about it does make you think of the Ahmaud Arbery case. I know that's what many of us at Court TV, when we were talking in our editorial meeting earlier. Al, I see you nodding along. Let me start with you on that. That was a case you analyzed quite a bit for us. Do you think this might make the jury think of that case and the way that those citizens, now convicted criminals, acted?
Well, I mean, in some respects, I hope the jury doesn't think about that case, because I want the jury thinking about the case in front of it. It's not supposed to be bringing in prejudices or stuff that's outside the scope of what's put forth at the time of trial. But this is exactly on point. This dysfunctional vigilante syndrome that we see going on is just pathetic. I don't understand how people think that they have the right to just start shooting at somebody. Some poor guy who's got a job that no one really wants, and he's out there doing his work, okay, and he's being shot at for no other reason other than the fact he's in a rental van and he happens to be black. That's a horrendous situation. And the fact that these guys don't call the police. If you see a suspicious vehicle, you see it, call on it. Don't take the justice into your own hands. These guys shouldn't have a license for a bicycle, let alone the ability to have a gun. It's just frightening to me.
It is. I like what you said there. You're right. It is very irresponsible gun ownership. We know, one of the first rules if these people, who knows if they went to any, classes or anything and got any bit of responsible training as citizens, you don't use deadly force to protect property. And here they're shooting at this van, even if it is unmarked. Darnell Crossland, let me go to you on this. Even though they're saying, well, it was unmarked, we didn't know. Yeah, but he's wearing a FedEx uniform. He's uniform, and this is in a neighborhood with people around. I mean, the whole idea of this, it's pretty wild and preposterous. Do you think these guys have a chance at trial?
Well, I have to stay true to what I believe in as a litigator, which is you always have a chance at trial. I mean, it's beyond a reasonable doubt, and you have to prove that. Do I think from these facts they had a right to use deadly force? No. You said it yourself. You can't use deadly force to protect property. And the force has to be equal, even if it's not deadly. Here, what we're talking about? I mean, I'm not going to lose the historical context here. I think these guys look just like the guys that killed Ahmaud Arbery. They just look like, Al, you could fill in the blank. And again, it's a racist situation. I hope the civil rights department of the U.S. Attorney's Office takes the case. I do think it's biased, and I don't think it would happen if Al was driving that truck. So we can't dismiss this point. If I was down there knocking on the door, they probably thought I was Jehovah's Witness, Nation of Islam, or some black guy in the neighborhood, and maybe I would have got shot at. Jennifer might not have gotten shot at. But we can't allow this to continue to happen, because it's just not fair. And I think this kid is going to be traumatized for this. He probably can't go back to work. I mean, when you hear a gunshot banging, that's it.
I'm sure he is traumatized. You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to ask Jennifer Brand, and thank you for that, Darnell. Jennifer, in terms of what he can do in terms of recovery, thank goodness he was not hit by that gunfire. That is the best part of this case, that he is alive and healthy, thank goodness, and can then handle everything accordingly, maybe trauma therapy, whatever else he needs. What about recovery in terms of a civil lawsuit? Doesn't his family have a good leg to stand on here with him, trying to help him get through the court system and perhaps bring a civil claim against these guys too?
Absolutely. And I mean, while you say he wasn't injured, physically, no, but mentally, emotionally, I'm sure he was very injured and probably will be suffering for the rest of his life. I mean, how scary is that? He's just trying to earn a living and do a job, and then be shot upon for what reason? We don't even know really why or what they were doing or why they would attack him. He didn't seem to be doing anything to them or to bother them in any way. He was just merely delivering packages. So I think he does have a civil claim, but I mean, these guys, what do they have, to recover damages or whatever? Again, it's the same situation. They may be judgment proof in terms of a civil recovery. We don't know what kind of property or money they may have, or whether it could ever compensate him for the harm that he's suffered.
Right.
It is like the Ahmaud Arbery case, and I think we're seeing this all over again, which is a really scary situation. People are just too quick to use their guns for no reason.
Oh, it's insane. It's so irresponsible. It's horrific. Darnell Crossland, let me go back to you on a point. Jennifer said something that made me think of this. if these two guys are in nowhere street in terms of money for a civil lawsuit, do you think there could be any liability that FedEx could have here? And I'm just wondering, why didn't this young man have a nice marked van with, the bright lettering and all that? I wondered if it does create a safety hazard with the van unmarked, and you wonder if you see somebody pulling in your driveway in a van like that and you're not expecting a package, you might think, oh, who is this? And if there's kids around, you might be wondering, oh geez, who's driving this van? Is it, I wonder, do you think FedEx could be on the hook, Darnell?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And I just finished a case similar to that in federal court.
Yeah.
My clients own a grocery store. It's a gas station. Some Indian clients I have. And one of the girls was flirting with the owner's son. The owner's son went to her house, and they did what adults do. But on the way there, she said, "Can you pick me up something?" He doesn't use drugs. He picked it up, gave it to her. They had sex. He left. She died of the drugs. And then now the store was being sued. And the insurance company struck back in federal court saying, we protect against negligence if a potato chip rack falls, but not against that type of behavior. But ultimately, it stayed in federal court so long that the insurance company settled. In this particular case, you do go after FedEx, you do go after these people that were shooting, and you see what happens. Sometimes insurance companies will say, you know what, we'll settle, just get us out the claim, and whoever's left stays in. So whether they're successful or not at trial, we don't know, but you do sue everybody because this kid was in a car, unmarked, and maybe FedEx could have did more to protect them.
This is just so sad. Again, this one opens up tomorrow. Al, we're just about out of time. Quickly.
Okay.
Go ahead.
There's a workers' comp bar. You can't sue your employer. Okay, so he's not going to be able to go after FedEx unless he's going to be able to prove that FedEx knew that these guys were going to be there with guns and they sent them there anyway. Interesting thing was the guy did go back to work the next day and they put him on the same route, which is certainly a bizarre scenario. Jeez. But, I mean, it shows you the testimony of what kind of a decent guy this guy is. He went back to work the next day. But you can't sue your employer under workers' comp. There's a bar.
All right, Al, thank you for that. All right, well, we got to leave it there for now.
All right, my radio family. As we continue on, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the article to give some more detail about this case. Okay. A police dispatcher and detective testified Wednesday in the trial of two white men in Mississippi who are accused of chasing and shooting at a black FedEx driver who had dropped off a package at home. Brandon Case and his father, Gregory Charles Case, they were charged with attempted first-degree murder, conspiracy, and shooting into a vehicle driven by Demario Gibson in January 2022. Sat with their attorneys in a small courtroom full of spectators. Gibson, who was 24 at the time, was not injured, but the chase and the gunfire led to complaints on social media of racism in Brookhaven, about an hour's drive south of the state capital, Jackson. It happened as Gibson made deliveries for FedEx on the evening of January 24, 2022, while driving a rental vehicle with Hertz logo on three sides. After he dropped off a package at home on a dead-end road, Gregory Case used a pickup truck to try to block the van from leaving, and Brandon Case came outside with a gun. District Attorney D. Bates told the majority white jury as Gibson drove the van around the pickup truck, shots are fired. Bates said, with 3 rounds hitting the delivery van and some of the packages inside. Gregory Case attorney Terrell Stubbs told jurors that the client saw a van outside his mother-in-law's unoccupied home and went to check what was happening. Gregory Case, who was just going to ask the driver what was going on, but the driver did not stop, Stubbs said. They got a damn nerve. They act like they the law of order. Nobody has to answer to your ass at all. at all. They feel like they have full authority, and when they want to exercise their nature, they want us to comply with them. Well, those days are over with. We're going to demonstrate our nature too. Power to the people, I'll be a cub for life, and power to our folks down there on that waterfront. As we continue on with this article, the sun had already gone down. It was completely dark. Completely dark. Somebody was in the wrong place, Stubbs said. It wasn't my client. How the hell was he in the wrong place? He was doing his damn job, And now they want to overemphasize it was completely dark. So what you're trying to say, y'all didn't know he was black? They knew who that was. They knew exactly what they were doing. Stop insulting our intelligence. Anyway, Vince Fernando, a Brookhaven Police Department detective, testified that a truck stop security cam video recorded a white van being followed by a pickup truck at 7:31 p.m., 14 minutes before Gregory Case called police. A police dispatcher testified that Gregory Case called first, reporting that he had seen a suspicious vehicle near his home and that the van almost ran him over. Audio of the call was played in court, with Case saying he wanted to know who owns the van and was saying he thought the driver was up to something that was no good. Here they go again with this authority stuff. Gibson called shortly thereafter, reporting that someone shot at the van while he was delivering packages. The dispatcher said Fernando, who is the detective, also said the cell phone records show calls between the father and son's phones were made that evening before Gregory Case called the police. Keep that on your frontal lobe. And I have a lot to say in the end about this. Stubbs questioned Fernando repeatedly about whether an average person would try to find out what's happening if they seen a strange vehicle near their home. All Mr. Gibson had to do was stop and say, "Hey, I'm a FedEx driver." He was in a Hertz van with a Florida tag, Stubbs said. Okay, whatever. Fernando replied, the average citizen should call the police department and ask for help. Gibson's attorney, Carlos Moore, compared the episode to the killing of Ahmaud Arbery, a 24-year-old black man who was, which we all know about the case, running empty-handed through a Georgia subdivision in 2020 when three white men, a father, a son, and neighbor, chased him down and blasted him with a shotgun. During a news conference days after the confrontation, Gibson said he was wearing a FedEx uniform and driving the van FedEx had rented for his deliveries when he dropped off a package at home. He said the driver of the pickup truck tried to cut him off as he left the driveway. Gibson said he swerved around the truck, encountered a second man who was pointing a gun at the van and motioning him to stop. Gibson said the man fired as he drove away, damaging the van and packages inside. The pickup driver chased him to Interstate 55 near Brookhaven before ending the pursuit, he said. Moore and Gibson is he's still employed by FedEx and is out on workers' compensation leave. A judge dismissed Gibson's federal lawsuit seeking $5 million from FedEx last week, writing that it failed to prove the company discriminated against him because of race. The litigation also named the city of Brookhaven, the police chief in the cases, and Moore said he planned to file a new civil suit in state court. Okay, my royal family, there are some things that I know about this case that I'm going to discuss in the end, but I'm going to play this next video where they're in court and they're are questioning the detective. Now, one thing that I want to let y'all know, there is a lot of footage of this, but the sound quality is horrible. The quality of hearing the 911 call, and then there was some footage when this detective went to Mr. Case, the younger Case, because I don't know who's who and I don't even care, place of business, and so the audio is really janky, and even the video was janky. So the duty and responsibility of a good blogger is to present a video in such a way where we don't bring y'all the stuff that you can barely hear and all that. That was the purpose of reading the article, to get more detail about what's going on with this case. I'm not in trying to insult the royal family. I'm just giving the best that I could give to y'all, and like how I like to visualize this. So let's listen to a bit of courtroom drama, and then I also put up here the closed caption too as well, that y'all can see.
Bringing you the FedEx driver shooting trial out of Mississippi. Gregory and Brandon Case, who are both white, are accused of shooting a young black man. A FedEx driver you see there who was dropping off a package at a home back in January of last year. Let's get you back into the courtroom now. We were just watching the police interview with Detective Vincent Fernando on the stand. We just got done with that video where you saw an agitated detective, an agitated interviewee. Here's more from that witness.
Number and his father's number.
Anyone else?
His mother's number also. We had it already.
And are you familiar with the Fleetway security footage?
Yes, sir.
All right. And the state is going to ask for the display Exhibit 5, Your Honor. That is a photograph of State's Exhibit 5, State's Exhibit 5, it's a photograph of the video footage. And you've seen it, correct?
Yes.
And in that video footage, you can see clearer than this, but what does it depict?
I see the van, and there's a pickup truck following the van.
You see lights right here, what is that?
That's the first one. It's a truck, the van is the front.
And there's lights there, what's that?
That's a van, the one in the back is truck. Front is, sorry, around the other way. Yes, and the first one I'm looking at to the right is the van, to the left is the truck.
Because the interstate is where? To the right, or left of me, or somewhere else?
So if I'm looking at it to the right.
And is that consistent or different from what Gregory Case said on the 911 tape?
It's consistent with it, time-wise.
And what, at any time, is this timestamp on?
Yes, 7:31 p.m., January 24th, 2022.
And I'm going to approach Your Honor. This is State's Exhibit 3, Your Honor. That's kind of difficult to see for some folks, but again, are you familiar with the phone calls?
Yes, sir.
And you're familiar with the numbers?
Yes, sir.
All right. With that being said, whom, if anyone, has the, I'm going to say 601-754-2273?
That's Brandon Case phone number.
All right. And I see that there is a phone call at 7:24, and this is in military time, 7:24:32. And are you familiar with that phone call?
Yes, sir.
Whom, if anyone, did he call?
Brandon called his mother.
And how do you know what his mother's phone number is?
It's going from the number he provided me. That's where I know from.
And where does she reside?
This is 417 Junior Trail.
All right. And so there is another call of significant importance to me, which is at 1929 and 29. This one right here. And that's a 722-73 calling a 5867 number.
Brandon is calling his father's phone number, 5867-754.
And that's at 7:29 and 29 seconds.
Yes.
All right. Are you familiar with the route from Junior Trail 714?
Yes, sir.
To the truck stop?
Yes, sir.
How are you familiar with that route?
Because I did myself, I timed it and make sure mileage and the time, how long it takes to drive from 417 Junior Trail to intersection 550, Union Street Exchange and intersection 555 North is, I timed it the mileage, check the miles.
How many miles?
It's 2.8 miles.
And how long does it take you to drive that at legal speeds?
4 minutes, 40 seconds.
All right. And again, what was the timestamp in front of Fleetway?
It's 7:31.
And at 7:29, who was calling whom?
Brandon calling his father.
All right. And then there is another entry, one of interest, 7:32, right here, which is 1932 and 11 seconds. And you see the calling number, you see the dial number, and the call number. Whom, if anyone, is calling whom?
It's Gregory calling Brandon. So may I look at this time so I have it in my hand?
Can we refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir. Seven 7:32:11. Gregory case calling Brandon. 7545867 calling Brandon case 7542273.
All right. And that lasted a significant amount of time.
Yes.
So there is another phone call that is made at 1938 seconds, which is right here, with 5867 and a 2273. Call number is 2273. Who called who?
Gregory case called Brandon case.
All right. And through the course and scope of your investigation, did you determine off the timestamp off the phone records from the PD, what time was the Brookhaven Police Department notified by Gregory Case of this event?
Mr. Gregory case called 7:45:38 to Brookhaven Police Department.
So how many phone calls were made between the cases before there was a phone call made to Brookhaven Police Department?
3 phone calls.
And just for clarification's sake, through the course and scope of your investigation, when did DeMonterio make a phone call to?
He called 8:05 p.m. the Brookhaven Police Department.
Yes, sir. How much time elapsed between the 7:31 timestamp at the truck stop and the phone call made by Gregory Case to Brookhaven Police Department?
About 14 minutes, the difference.
And again, how long does it take you to drive from the Flateway to 714 Junior Trail?
It takes 4 minutes, 40 seconds.
This was introduced in the evidence earlier. State showing State's Exhibit S8. What is that a depiction of? What is that photograph of?
It's a white truck.
White truck? Who drives that white truck?
Mr. Gregory Case.
And that's State's Exhibit S9. That's in front of what?
All right, I do want to bring in to discuss what we've seen so far our national trial attorney guest analyst, Michael Jafer. Michael, they're showing that white pickup truck, and it appears that that's going to be the one that these alleged crimes were carried out in, that the father and son were driving in or sharing when these shots were fired. Anything else standing out to you from this detective's testimony?
I'm just curious as to why he was so aggressive in pursuing him, at the motorcycle place. But this detectives, something's off about that because, so you've got the video evidence, you've got the victim. Thankfully, the victim was not harmed. And so now you go into this situation where this detective is becoming basically, a lightning rod for this case and for the defense. But I also don't see this being a positive either way. The evidence is what it is. You've got the gun casings, you've got the shooting pattern, you've got the fact that these men, kind of admitted on at least 2 different occasions that they thought that they were doing the right thing. They definitely were not. They were shooting at a person that was running away. But this detective's testimony, I don't think it's going to factor into the jury's mind at the end of the day because, I'm looking to see the balance of the evidence and how it's presented and what's admitted. But if what ends up getting admitted is all of this detective's testimony or none of it, you're still going to get the forensic evidence that's going to establish that these men shot a guy. I mean, unless they thought he had kidnapped somebody, they said that it was a vacant home, right? So they're not going to say that. But unless they can prove that they truly thought this guy had kidnapped a kid and was running away with a kid, there's no justification legally to shoot a person who was running away, even if they thought he was robbing the place. And he clearly wasn't, right? The victim clearly wasn't doing anything wrong. But even if he was robbing the place, they admitted that this was a vacant home, right? And that they were shooting at a person who was leaving a vacant home. And they chased him down. So this detective's testimony, I'm not seeing it, but I know they have to follow that thread.
That's an important distinction that you're making, Michael, because when people draw the comparisons to this case and the Ahmaud Arbery case, you're talking about homes where the defendants don't live, where it's not their property that they are saying they believed was under attack, but at the same time, there's this chase and the person is getting away. And even if you believe that they took something, you're making very clear that you still aren't within your legal rights to then shoot that person. So thankfully, he survived and was not injured in this, but still an important case there in Mississippi.
All right. That's the end of that, my royal family. And what they are talking about was, back to what I was saying, there is a video where the detective goes to the place of business that the younger case worked at. He worked at a motorcycle dealership. And what this attorney is saying was, why was he so aggressive? Now, I watched the video, and I wouldn't torture y'all through it, but the reason why the detective was so aggressive towards him, this dude was very arrogant, nonchalant, and even though I couldn't really hear what was being quite said, you could see it in his body language. Even when you look at them, you can tell that they racist to the core, father like son. They don't think nothing of doing what they do to us. Because I talk about the nature again and again and again of many things. And you want to sit up here and insult our intelligence and basically say, oh, all we was just trying to do was just ask him a few questions. No, what this case is all, what the cases, what they were doing was they had an opportunity. And what they was going to do was play with him and torture him. See, that's the righteous of passage for black men in America. But now, in this dying system, we seeing all of us getting that righteous of passage by dealing with those Karens and the enemy overall when they unquote get an opportunity. They were opportunists. They know who that was. They probably even seen him in the neighborhood before, and they wanted to get their unquote jollies at the end of the day. The other part that I wanted to add to this case is that, and I'm hoping that they sue the police, was that the cops already knew who had did it, and they slow dragged as far as making an arrest and all of that. And if I recall, I think they turned themselves in, 3 or 4 days later. And it could, and another thing, because I couldn't find it, also what I recall was that I think they might have possibly had some family member in law enforcement. Now, don't hold me to that. Usually I like to prove those type of things, but I'm going back on memory, and that's been well over a year. So, like I said before, I'm going to stay on top of this this case. And there's some other ones that I'm looking behind the scenes that's been drug out for years that I can't wait for it to present itself, and I'm going to present this to the royal family. So my royal family, I don't know if I'll do a video every day or every other day, because I like to gather up as much data as possible. It just based on how things are presented. Maybe I might have to do it every day because there may be something just so juicy that it can be, I want to present it immediately, but it could be every other day. And I do invite folks to send emails and everything, because that helps me too as well in my deep research. So my royal family, I know this was a bit of a long video, but it is what it is, and do what you continue to do to render your voice with your beautiful divine words. And as always, my royal family, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your support. And with that said, Ashe.